Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a really fascinating transformation. We're exploring how data analytics, a tool you might think of more for marketing or maybe sports stats, is completely reshaping the pretty traditional world of auditing.
Yeah, it often seems a bit stead, doesn't it?
Exactly. So we pulled together a good stack of sources. They don't just define data analytics, but they really dive deep into how audit firms are specifically using it. And crucially, the benefits and the challenges that come with it.
Right. And this isn't just some niche topic just for accountants, This deep dive offers you a really critical shortcut. It helps you understand how these core industries are being fundamentally, redefined by tech. We're talking about a huge shift in how accuracy is achieved, how efficiency is gained, even how fraud gets detected in business. It's happening fast, and getting a grip on it gives you a real edge, I think, in seeing where the future of information and oversight is going.
Okay, so let's start with the basics, maybe the bigger picture. You're probably already somewhat familiar with data analytics in other fields, right? Like operations or healthcare, maybe influencing consumer behavior.
Sure.
But what we're really zeroing in on today is its, kind of surprising and pretty radical use within financial auditing.
Yeah.
I mean, at its heart, data analytics is simple. Look at data, draw conclusions. But the sophistication now, it's really something else.
Oh, absolutely. The trend now isn't just looking at data. It's about using information from, tons of different sources, all integrated and getting insights much faster, more timely.
The front sources light.
Well, we're not just talking spreadsheets anymore. Our sources show businesses analyzing everything: audio, visual data, customer feedback, you name it. Using software to mine customer chats to find new product ideas, or even figuring out if a client might be about to leave so they can jump in proactively.
That's incredible. And the reach, you think marketing predicting sales, logistics optimizing routes. But we're seeing examples like police forces collating crime reports across different regions, not just locally, to spot repeat frauds, connecting dots that were just, invisible before. It really feels like the possibilities are almost limitless.
They really kind of are. And then you factor in AI. Emerging artificial intelligence.
Right.
It's not just what humans can analyze. It's what AI can do faster, deeper, and it adapts constantly, way beyond what a person could manage.
Okay, so given that huge scope in the wider business world, the big question for us is, how do auditors actually use this? With their specific needs for precision, for independence, what does data analytics look like on the ground in a financial audit?
Yeah, that's the key pivot, isn't it? The IAASB, the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, they sort of gave the green light. They formally defined data analytics and audit. It's a bit formal, but essentially.
Go on, give us the formal bit.
Okay. It's the science and art of discovering and analyzing patterns, deviations, and inconsistencies, and extracting other useful information in the data related to the subject matter of an audit through analysis, modeling, and visualization for the purpose of planning and performing the audit.
Okay, so science and art. Interesting. Patterns, deviations, inconsistencies.
Right. In simpler terms, it's really about using data to spot things, those patterns or oddities that human eyes just could never catch wading through millions of transactions.
Makes sense.
And firms are jumping on this, big ones, and increasingly smaller ones too. The goal is twofold, really. Cut audit risk and add real value for their clients.
How are they doing that? Is there one tool everyone uses?
No, not really. The bigger firms, they often build their own sophisticated platforms. Smaller firms might buy off-the-shelf packages, so there's no single magic bullet. It's more a spectrum of tools. Lots are in-house, and they often use really powerful visual methods like graphs and dashboards to make trends pop out.
And the main driver for all this, based on what we've read, seems to be boosting audit quality. Making it actually possible for auditors to effectively look at the sheer volume of data in client IT systems now.
Exactly. They can pull out that data, manipulate it, get a much, much better understanding of what's going on with the client's information, and crucially, spot risks way more effectively. These tools take that raw, messy data and turn it into clear presentations. They help generate audit programs tailored to specific risks, and sometimes feed right into automated audit procedures. It's all about efficiency, too.
Can you give us some concrete examples? Like, how does it work in practice for specific audit tests?
Sure. Take something like NRV testing net realizable value for inventory. Instead of just sampling a few items.
Right, the old way.
Yeah. Data analytics can compare every single item's purchase details against its sale details, time, price, everything, or analyzing revenue trends, not just overall, but across all products, all regions.
Wow.
Matching purchase orders to invoices and payments. It can do that for every single one. Or even testing segregation of duties, who did what. It can look at the metadata for all transactions to see if there are weird user combinations involved.
So it's digging much deeper than was ever feasible before.
Totally. It transforms the data into actual insights. It builds a foundation for audit work that's just more precise, more efficient, and really targeted on the risks that matter.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, the advantages. What are the big upsides when auditors bring this tech in? For them and for their clients?
Well, the big picture benefits are pretty clear. It's a major jump in both audit quality and efficiency. And that really stems from getting unprecedented access to data, being able to manipulate it, and applying these tools consistently.
Right.
But let's dig into some specifics. First off, there's a huge increase in business understanding.
How so?
By analyzing client data really thoroughly, and especially by using visual things like dashboards instead of just rows of numbers, auditors can grasp complex business trends and patterns super quickly. It makes spotting anomalies, those outliers, much, much easier.
That makes sense. Seeing it visually.
Exactly. And second, flowing from that, you get a better focus on risk. This clearer understanding helps auditors pinpoint the real risks and aim their testing right at those critical areas. It frees them up from the sort of routine data crunching.
So they can focus on the trickier judgment calls.
Precisely. Higher judgment, higher risk zones. Then, another big one, especially for large companies, increased consistency across group audits.
For multinationals and stuff.
Yeah. If all the auditors across different locations or divisions are using the same tech, the same process, well, you get much more consistent testing across the whole group, assuming you have the right consents, of course. It gives a much more reliable, holistic view.
Okay.
And then there's just raw efficiency. These programs chew through massive data sets incredibly fast. Auditors can test way larger samples, often 100% testing in certain areas.
100%. That's huge.
It is. It boosts coverage massively and cuts down or even eliminates sampling risk. That saves time, which again, they can reinvest in the complex, judgmental parts of the audit.
So it's not just speed, it's the sheer breadth of data they can actually look at now, which was, like you said, impossible before.
Exactly right. And that data can be more easily manipulated. Auditors can do sensitivity analysis on management's assumptions much more easily than before. That really deepens the analysis.
Okay. What about fraud?
Yeah, good point. A definite increase in fraud detection.
Yeah.
Because you can interrogate all the data and really test segregation of duties properly. Well, the chances of catching fraud that might slip through a sample-based approach are just much higher.
Right.
And finally, something really compelling, added client value. The insights you get aren't just for the auditor's report.
They can share them.
Yeah, they can share useful findings with the client, giving them a fresh, data-driven look at their own operations. Maybe spot inefficiencies or opportunities they hadn't seen.
That is a powerful set of benefits. But, with any big tech shift, it's never completely smooth sailing, is it? What are the real-world hurdles? The practical problems auditors run into trying to make all this amazing tech work. It can't just be plug and play.
Oh, definitely not. You're absolutely right. It's far from simple. A really big issue right now is the lack of consistency. There isn't a widely accepted standard across different firms or sometimes even within the same firm. Plus, there's no specific regulation or detailed guidance covering all the ways data analytics gets used in an audit. That makes setting consistent quality benchmarks really tough.
And that probably creates imbalances.
It does. It puts smaller firms at a disadvantage. The ones with deep pockets to develop their own fancy tools get a real edge. It potentially widens that gap between the big players and the smaller ones.
Yeah, I can see that. So what about other specific issues? You mentioned data earlier, the sheer volume, the sensitivity, that must be a headache.
It's a major one. Data privacy and confidentiality. Think about it. You're copying and storing huge amounts of really detailed client data. That inherently creates risks.
Breaches.
Exactly. Breaches of confidentiality, violating data protection laws like GDPR. If an audit firm's security isn't absolutely rock solid, that data could be misused, stolen, leading to massive legal problems and reputational damage.
Oof. Yeah.
And related to that, you get client reluctance. Some clients are understandably hesitant to grant that level of access. They worry about privacy or maybe just the disruption they think it'll cause to their systems.
So getting the data in the first place can be a hurdle. And once you have it,
Well, then you have to worry about the completeness and integrity of the data you extracted. Is it actually all there? Is it accurate? This isn't always guaranteed.
right.
You often need specialists just to get the data out correctly. And things can go wrong if the firm doesn't have the right tools or maybe doesn't fully understand the client's often complex data systems, especially if there are multiple different systems involved.
Or the client only gives partial data.
That's a risk too. Clients might only make certain data available or, in rare bad cases, maybe even manipulate what they provide. Then you've got plain old compatibility issues. The client system might spit out data in a format your standard tests just can't handle. That means delays, extra work, customization.
Okay, so challenges with the data itself. What about the people, the auditors? Are they ready for this shift?
That's a really good question. Auditor competence is a significant hurdle. The audit staff themselves, they might lack the skills or understanding to properly interpret the data, the outputs from these tools, to draw the right conclusions.
So training is needed.
Lots of it, expensive ongoing training. And then there's a crucial risk around evidence, keeping sufficient and appropriate evidence on the audit file.
What do you mean?
Well, if the auditors don't fully understand or meticulously document how they ran a test, the inputs, the parameters, just saving a screenshot of the results might not be enough.
You can't recreate it later.
Exactly. You can't verify it. It might not stand up as proper audit evidence. And finally, just the practical practice management issues, storing all this data.
Yeah, the sheer volume must be huge.
Well, massive amounts. And audit evidence has to be kept for years. So firms need serious investment in hardware or they outsource storage, which kind of ironically can introduce new risks around data loss or privacy. And of course, there's always the expectation gap. Stakeholders, investors, the public might see 100% testing and mistakenly assume that means the client's underlying data is 100% perfect.
Which isn't necessarily what the test proves.
Right. It can lead to misunderstandings about what an audit using these tools actually achieves.
Okay, so wrapping this up, data analytics genuinely allows auditors to analyze potentially every transaction, every balance. That's a massive shift from the old risk-based sampling approach, which, as you said, kind of widened that expectation gap over time.
Exactly. Data analytics gives us a real chance to, as you put it, redress some of this balance. It massively boosts the auditor's ability to test more stuff, basically. More transactions, more balances. Which in turn can significantly increase the odds of spotting certain kinds of fraud or identifying inefficiencies, maybe even opportunities for the client's business.
But there's a but, isn't there?
There is. And it's a crucial nuance we really need to stress. Despite these incredibly powerful tools, auditors are not being replaced by computers. Not even close.
Yeah.
Data analytics gives you an amazing rearview mirror, incredible detail about the past, but it can't predict the future. Auditors, human auditors, are still absolutely essential for assessing complex judgments, understanding the qualitative stuff, the nuances of a business, and ultimately evaluating the future viability of a firm, not just crunching its past numbers.
So as you, our listener, consider the future of business and finance and maybe ponder this thought.
Yeah, while data analytics gives us this unprecedented insight into past transactions and current patterns, how does the audit profession keep evolving? Its most human skills judgment, foresight to navigate an increasingly complex future. Especially when the data gives us a great rearview mirror, but it's not quite a crystal ball yet. How do we balance the tech and the human touch going forward?
That's a great question to leave things on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into data analytics and the really evolving world of auditing. We definitely encourage you to keep exploring this fascinating intersection of technology and traditional professions.